Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create a sample. Now the first question then is going to be, what is a sample? And I think there are really two kinds of samples. The first kind is where, your favourite artist takes a small snippet from another person's song, another artist's song, and uses it in their own track. This is like usually the chorus, a vocal, a drum pattern, and maybe loops it, or it just comes back every now and again. So that's really the first kind, right? The second kind is where you record an instrument and you take a small section of that recording and you turn that into a virtual instrument. So an instrument that exists within your digital audio workstation. So Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools, or whatever you're using. With the intention that you can then play that or play those samples back, those little chunks of audio, as a fully fledged instrument. Okay? This is kind of a little bit confusing, I think, at first, but as we do it, it will make much more sense. But the thing to take home here is that both of those ways of sampling, what you're really doing is you're taking the whole recording and you're chopping little bits out of that recording. Okay? And that is what a sample is a small chunk of recording that's been taken out of the original recording and put into a different context. Okay. If that doesn't make too much sense, drop me a comment on this video and I'll do a much better job of explaining it. Okay. Right. So what we're doing is the second kind of sampling, where we record an instrument and we turn that into a virtual instrument, which is where we take those samples, put it into a sampler, which then plays those samples back in a more kind of musical way. Okay. So what I did a week or so ago is I recorded a kick drum, and with the intention of turning it into a sampled instrument, and it sounds like this. Okay, so this is a kick drum. And in order to turn this into a sample, there's just a few things that we need to do. Okay, so the first thing is we've just listened to it. We've just checked that the sample, the original recordings, are not too loud. There's not too much noise, background noise in there, and it sounds fine to me. So it's not too quiet, it's not too loud, not too much noise going on. So those are the two first things you're going to need to think about when making your own samples or deciding whether the recording you've got is going to be suitable for that. The second thing is, you may have noticed, is that from the kick to the next kick sound, there's a lot of silence. This is deliberate. This means that we can edit our samples, nice and easily. If these two kicks were very close together, our samples would be very short, and we might chop something up and accidentally get rid of something that sounded cool. Okay, so when you're doing this, record the sound of your piano, your voice, your guitar, leave some silence, leave the instrument to ring out, and then add a little bit of extra time where you don't do anything, so that you can chop this up nice and easy. Now we're going to do exactly that. We're going to chop this up so that we've got two samples. So the first sample being this first kick, and the second sample being the second time that we hear this kick. So let's go ahead and do that now. So what you need to do is change your tool setting from pointer to scissors, and then we need to drag our playhead in line with this first kick, so in line with this first waveform here. There we go, and chop this recording just before you see the waveform appearing. Okay, so we've got silence to the left of this playhead and the kick is just over to the right. If we drag this over here, when we play our sample back in our sampler, we're going to get a bit of silence and then the kick will appear, so it won't sound very natural. So drag this to just before the kick starts to come through. So this is called the attack or the transient of the audio, which is the big bulk, the big rush of sound before it sort of begins to fade out. Anyway, click there. Let's do the same to the other kick, and just get the playhead just before it, zoom in a little bit, and I think this one is just about here. Chop that up as well, And there we go. We've kind of already got 2 samples, right? Let's go ahead and get rid of this big chunk of silence at the beginning. And we'll drag this to the beginning, this one to bar 3. And there we go. So 2 samples. Now, the first thing you're going to notice here is that both of these are different sizes, and what we need them to be is the same size, okay? So the audio recordings will sound much better in our sampler, the thing that plays the samples back to us, if they're both the same size. So let's go ahead and make these half a bar each. So drag these to half a bar, so 3.5 and 1.5. Let's drag this to bar 2. There we go, 2 samples. Let's have a quick listen. Great, they both sound very similar, which is good, and they're both quite short. The next thing that you should do is just fade out the end of your regions, just in case there's any clicking or popping. So what you need to do is select this fade tool. Then you need to select both of your regions, so they highlight. Hover over to the middle of those regions, hold down Command, and then drag that across so you get a bit of a fade. And all a fade is doing is fading out the volume. Okay, so we get a nice smooth volume, the volume turning down here. We need to do the same to the beginning, but much, much less. So zoom in for this one. Hover over the middle of that region, and then click and drag. There we go, but just a very small amount because we want to hear the bulk of this beginning. Okay, so now when we hear them back, they sound exactly the same, but now we're absolutely sure that we're not going to get a pop or a clicking sound when this sample stops playing. Okay, so that's the bulk of it. That is 2 samples just there, 2 kick samples. But a really, really important thing to think about when you're making your own samples is that you name them something that is recognizable by the sampler and also by yourself. So let's go ahead and rename this. That's Shift N in Logic. Let's name this Kick 1. And for this one, Kick 2. Okay, so Kick 1, Kick 2, that's easily recognizable for us and also will be recognizable for the sampler. And so all we need to do now is actually create 2 playable audio files from these samples. And to do that in Logic, all you need to do is click and highlight both of these regions, both of these samples, come up to File, down to Export, and then across to 2 regions as audio files. So it's going to export both of those samples as individual audio files. Go ahead and click that one, and then you get this screen appear. Now I'm not going to go into any particular depth in this top part here. Leave this as wave. Bit depth 24 is good quality, and leave the rest of it as it is. I'll probably do another video at some point going into a bit more depth on this. Come down to the bottom here where it says pattern. Now region name, you can name this by the regions that we've just done. So this will name the first sample as Kick 1 and the second sample as Kick 2 as individual audio files. So that's good, that's what I want, and I'm happy with the rest of it. So all you need to do now is go ahead and click export. Make sure that you're in an area that you want your samples to go to. So I'm just going to leave this as desktop. And there we go. Yeah, just click export. And that is that. And now what we can do is go into the sampler EXS24, and we can click on that one and go to edit, and then come to zone up here on the top, click load multiple samples, and there we go, desktop, Kick 1, Kick 2, that's the samples we've just exported. I'm going to click Kick 1 first, click add, click done, and I'm going to click auto map. There we go. And there it is, there is our first kick. Now I can do the second one by loading samples again. This time Kick 2, click add, click done, and same thing for this auto map. And there we go, it appears just here. Now these 2 samples will play at the same time. and they're pitched. If we don't want them pitched, just check this this pitch button here. Make sure both of these are selected. And it will play them without pitch. Okay, and that is that. The second thing we can do, if we don't want these to both play at the same time, what we need to do is actually come across the groups and then view the group select by. So click that one. Let's get rid of a few of these other things on here a second. And we actually want group 3 to be selected by group 2. So hopefully this will make more sense. So what we want is group 1. So this is kick 1 and this is kick 2. And what we want is when kick 1 triggers, the next time we play a note, kick 2 triggers, so that we don't play them both at the same time and we get a nice, a more natural kind of playback. So what we need to do is just come across, select both of these, click on type, click group, and on the second one, kick 2, we're going to have kick 1 trigger that. Okay, so now when we play this, get the musical typing up again, they actually play one after another. And you can see that just here. So kick 1, then kick 2. And that's much more natural. I would also say that we probably want the one shot on, so this will play all the way through, and then rather than stopping as soon as we lift our finger off the key. Same for this one too. So now when we play them, there we go. And this makes a much more natural sound. So you've got one sample and then a different sample, which would be ever so slightly different. And that's much more like playing an actual drum. There we go. Let's, if we click the X on here, let's click save. And let's save this as kick example. There we go. Click save. And there we go. It's now here in EXS24 for us to play. So, and if we play any of these notes in here, there it is. Excellent. There we go, guys. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, click that subscribe button. Pop in a comment down the bottom if you want to tell me anything or want to ask me a question. And as always, thanks for watching.